morning. This is one of my favorite spots in the house because I'm right by the window and I feel like I'm like the cat sometimes, where I just want to sit in the window and watch the birds and watch the bugs and watch all the life go by. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Okay, we're going to start off with the Egyptian God Oracle today. Our card is Seth, resentment. Seth is one who, out of jealousy, dismembered his brother Osiris into 14 parts, scattering them to the Nile to prevent their resurrection. Right, so Seth dismembered his brother Osiris into 14 parts, dismembering them into the Nile to prevent resurrection. He is identified as an evil deity, and a bringer of chaos, desert, storms, and disorder. He is depicted with a human body and the head of an enigmatic animal with a long curved snout that resembles an octopi. His name derives from place or established. Seth puts you on your guard. You may experience unexpected accidents, moments of restlessness or resentment, conflicts or instability in emotional and commercial relationships. Moderate any attack and controlled anger. Remember, never resort to revenge, ever. So that's an ominous start, huh? Animal Spirit Guidebook. Tiger. Lunar force, ease in darkness, feminine energy. The tiger hunts at night, at one with silence. Fear nothing. This card reminds us to take in the wild darkness, to allow the lunar forces to soothe and heal our spirits. Sensuality, receptivity, and devotion are all heightened in the midnight hour. When the tiger takes advantage of these boons, spend some time in silence this evening or this morning, drinking in the potent calm. There is nothing to fear in stillness except the awakening of your own power. When in balance, passionate, strong, and sensual. When out of balance, overstimulated. To bring into balance, candle gazing. What message is that? Okay. Our card here is 35. And this is the medicine wheel. Now this is a beautiful card. I want you to really look at that. The medicine wheel. It's got a feline face, a birds, raptors, a snake, there's also another animal in there. I can't quite make it out, but there's another one in there. Okay. Medicine wheel is the sacred hoop of the 4 cardinal directions. It represents the cycle of life, cycles of nature, and the circular pattern of our cosmos. It has been used for millennia in indigenous cultures to bring harmony and well-being to the village. Its directions symbolize the 4 steps the shaman takes to become a person of power and wisdom. The initiation of the medicine wheel is to manifest clear blue skies in your life. It is important that you take a look at certain aspects of your being. Enter the medicine wheel from the south. Reflect how you are still clinging to events from the past. Can you continue to the west and notice the relationships, which relationships are toxic and drain your energy? Step into the north and say, do I know my passion, and show it. End at the east, visualizing how you want to live the next chapter of your life. It is up to you how much time you spend on each direction, minutes, days, or months, but when you are done, make sure to step outside the wheel and contemplate your journey. The medicine. You must not postpone your healing journey any longer. It can be difficult to start, but you must find your inner strength to step into the medicine wheel, or you may lose your opportunity. There are many ways and many paths. Choose one that resonates most with you. Once you have found it, the only mistake you can do is not follow it. Go boldly. So I kept the medicine wheel from my own drawing this morning because I've had a niggling that this week was like the start of something, and it's really kind of not the start. It's really that I need to get on the ball and get a few things done. And it's not that I've been procrastinating because the timing has been awful, but I know that this week I can get a chunk of what I've been looking at done. So I kept the medicine wheel, and then I drew cards for sharing. And I thought it was really interesting that resentment card is about Seth. And Seth really is the chaos, he's storms, he's disorder. He's also an opportunity to experience emotion in the medicine wheel. He brings up the shadows of emotion, those things that when something goes bad and your anger is triggered, you have a tendency to do things that are not rational. Like nobody rationally cuts up their brother in 11 parts and buries them down the Nile, right? So there is there's another thing in here. There's the resurrection at the end, right? So Seth is the card that represents the seeming control or seeming lack of control that happens with emotion, and the depth of where those emotions take you, and also the warning not to get too caught up in revenge, resentment, other people's emotions, your emotions concerning other people's behaviors, because you have to walk your path and be authentic. And it doesn't mean you don't have those feelings. It means you don't act on them, first off. But maybe your actions are more in a healing modality. And then we have Tiger. And I love Tiger because Tiger is the lunar force. It is the ease in the darkness, the feminine energy, sensuality, receptivity, and devotion. And I love how Tiger says, spend some time in silence, drinking in the calm. There's nothing to fear in stillness except waking your own power. I cannot tell you how many times I have met friends or encountered people in my life that they have the TV in the background going all the time, they have radios going in the background all the time, but there's no sense of calm anywhere. And their restless push and their restless energy goes Mach 10 and then they collapse, and then Mach 10 and then they collapse. So there's no regulation, and it's almost as though there's a fear of stillness. And Seth is definitely an emotional trigger, right? He's the trigger of emotions. He's a trigger of movement. He's a trigger of other people's actions, getting you in this place of anger, resentment, fear, disorder, chaos. Seemingly nothing is going in the right direction. Seemingly nothing is right. And yet, Tiger says, yeah, there's a lot of movement there, but you don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to be afraid of the darkness or the chaos. You don't have to be afraid of all these things. Lean into your own stillness, your own place of peace. What I call the place of peace. I should probably actually activate my place of peace. There we go. And these two together, simply put, is the recognition that what seems like darkness could just be the opportunity of stillness in the place of all of the seeming chaos in your life. The emotions that are brought up are then directly linked back to the wheel, the medicine wheel. And I talk about the medicine wheel a lot. But the south in the medicine wheel is emotion. South is afternoon, summer, youth, cedar, emotions, joy. It's the fourth dimension, and it's natural number 4. And as you work around the wheel, you go into west, which is physical, and in many wheels it's also the color black. In mine it's green. It is west, evenings, autumn, sage, adult, physical, and third dimension, natural number 8. And in this book it says that when you step into the west, you notice relationships are toxic and what drains your energy. And that's also physical, right? So energy is physical, okay? And then in the north, we have, it's blue or white, depending on the wheel, mental well-being, north. And in here, it says, do I know my passion and show it? That's your mental self. It's night, winter, the elders, sweetgrass, mental translucence, fifth dimension and natural number 5. And then the wheel, east, is visualizing how you want to live in the next chapter. And this is yellow and east, the spiritual being. Mornings, spring, babies, tobacco, the spirit, transcendence, first dimension, natural number 1. And when you're looking at the wheel, when it says to step outside the wheel and contemplate your journey, you're stepping into the movement of breath, fire, water, and earth. And you're stepping into natural number 6, natural number 3, natural number 7, natural number 2. And there's all these different elements within the layer of the next part of the wheel that influences the inner part. They're all connected. And at the very outer edge of the wheel, you have community. So no matter if you are standing in the middle of the wheel, or you have moved to the next ring or to the outside of the wheel, you're always encompassed by community. And the medicine of the wheel is not postponing your healing journey. And it's interesting, like I had asked my cards, right? Like I don't actually usually ask my cards anything. I just say, hey, what am I ready to hear today? And Seth came up as, hey, time to get moving. There's a little bit of chaos coming your way. You got to get grounding in. And Tiger was, I pulled medicine wheel for me, and that was the one I kept. And then when I pulled these for y'all, I was like, oh, it's like reinforcing my own cards. And the chaos that's coming, I really need to buckle down, use the darkness, the peace of this moment, because that change is coming. And the wheel, which is not postponing, using my inner strength, not losing the opportunity that's right in front of me, I need to move with it, and also being aware of where I'm connected into the wheel throughout my day, throughout my life, throughout what I'm doing this week. And I love how the essence of this card is said it represents the cycles of life, nature, pattern of the cosmos, and how indigenous cultures brought harmony and well-being to communities by using the wheel and integrating it into all the things that they did. And you know, it's funny because I've noticed that I've said it a lot in the last couple months, is there's a reason why I named my business Elemental Healing, because my felt sense of connection through my gifts makes me fundamentally, extraordinarily connected to the medicine wheel and to the elements in that wheel. And many years ago, when I was studying Wicca and I was really diving to the bottom of that particular well, one of the things that was reinforced with me through many practitioners of Wicca is that at the time, there were statements made like, too bad there isn't a elemental focused Wicca, because that would be your ballywick, right? And as the years have gone by, more and more independent Wicca have created branches of that particular, and there are now elemental Wicca practitioners, which I think is fun. But when I was at the beginning of my journey, I was kind of an oddball out, even within the traditional Wicca framework. So yes, Astra, have you come? Oh, smelling the wheel. We got to rub the wheel. Yes. Are we gonna sit? Yes. Oh, no. Yes. Maybe. say hello. Pets to say hello. Good girl. The wheel. Are you petting the wheel again? Okay. She's adorable. So today's, where was I? Oh yes, today's daily devotion, I got sidetracked a little bit, I think is very much about just because there's chaos, right? Just because there's a lot of emotion in the world and emotion that is triggered in you, doesn't mean you are not out of the wheel. Emotion is the south part of the wheel. I like how in this particular card deck, they talk about starting with emotion. They start in the south. Starting in the south means you're starting with afternoon, summer, youth, cedar. And youth in the south is the stage of life. It's the natural number 4 in the body of 9 modality. It's the 4th dimension. It is the emotional space. And too many times in our Western culture, we don't deal with emotion well. We don't actually flow with the emotion. We hide in darkness, or we stuff it down, we compartmentalize it. We don't allow our full bodies to express the full emotional range of expression. When I was a young person, one of the things that I got, at one point it wasn't criticism, but then it became criticism as I got older, which is you have such big emotions. You have such big expressions. You have such a big emotional presence. And it was at first said not in a negative way, but then as I grew older, it became very derogatory, like, can't you make yourself smaller? That's not an appropriate expression here. That is, it's you know, those are not emotions to have in this space. I remember one time where I was cautioned by someone that I really respected that if I didn't figure out how to dampen that emotion, I was going to get in a lot of trouble. And then I know that in my immediate family, when I started expressing in drama, they thought, oh, that's going to be your career. You're going to go into drama because you're so big. You have so big emotions. Let's channel that into something. And where I can see that that is from a Western colonial perspective of subjugating women and making people conform into society, that would be a normal expression, right? Like, yeah, let's channel that somewhere. And yet at the same time that I was doing drama, I was also drawing, and I was doing music, and I was doing, well, not as much music at that point, but I've always been a very creative expression person. I mean, I paint things like what's behind me. I sew things like what I'm wearing. I'm always finding ways to transmute the energy of the depth of my emotion, the depth of the energy well that I have. And so when I look at Seth and Tiger, I look at the potentiality for every person to access the depth of that and use it for something. Travel the wheel. Travel the wheel throughout your day. Is this emotion sad? Okay, if it's sad, where is it in my body? How do I not hold that sadness in my body? How do I, through my mental knowingness and through my connection to my body, what do I need to express? Where do I need to tap? Yes, I'm tapping. Where do I need to tap? Where do I need to make sound? La 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 na da ha. Yes. Where do I need to express it and release that for the peace of my mental well-being? And then where does my spirit say I am? Am I in a safe place? Have I completed that task? Have I let those emotions go? Or have I hidden them in a dark place? Have I become afraid of my emotions? That's important that you learn to express that. Go through the wheel. Go through the wheel in your day. Go through the wheel in your life. Let yourself get that stuff out. You know, one of the things that it's interesting, people for years have told me to sit still, stop shaking, stop fidgeting, stop wiggling around. I'm constantly in movement. Even when I'm still, I'm in movement, and I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel my skin move. I can feel the hairs on my skin move. I can feel my digestive tract gurgling and bubbling and moving around with my tea. I can feel my colon waking up with my tea. You know, I can feel all those things even when I'm in the most absolute still moment of place of peace. I can still feel all the movement in my body. And even when I'm in my most stillness, I can feel the oxygen. I can hear the clock ticking. I can feel Astra on my lap. I can feel and sense and hear and know. I can actually feel her heartbeat against my right leg through my robe. Like I can feel her heartbeat on my skin. That stillness, that awareness of my physical body and my emotional place, right? So I'm still, and I'm still emotional. I'm still filled with this magnificent sense of joy and this depth and well and connection that I have that is perfect because it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. I have no fear of it not being perfect in the moment. And this is a powerful thing that we can all do, is find the movement in stillness and move our bodies. I have times where I can't sit still at all, but I do a lot of tapping. I love cupping. I love where you take your hand and you cup it and you tap. And I love to do that right here because this is your K27 collar. Well, this is the collar of power, but it's where your K27s are. The manubrium is here. You have an interesting pulse point right up here at your shoulder, so your collar kind of rubs up against that pulse point. And it's a wonderful place to cup and tap. And I like to cup here. I start here and then I move it over, and then I cup here and I move it over. Astra's like, "What are you doing, Mom?" And then sometimes I'll go down to my 6. My 6 needs sometimes a little bit of a rhythm. Ah, and it just feels good. Sometimes there's a little tension here, so I'll tap on my upper arm. Here, I'm not giving myself a hug. It's actually where I'm releasing tension. And usually this where I need to tap here is where I'm releasing like a layer of other people's energy when I've gone someplace and I've been hugged a lot. Some people just don't know that when they hug, they're dumping. Hugging should be a holding of space and holding of energy. And you do hug others for when you need to help them and to help them with that pressure and that touch to release something, but that doesn't mean you take it into your own body. So sometimes tapping up and down the arms will help that, I have found. Also, I do my gua sha every day, and there's a felt sense of when I do that. Sometimes, like this morning, I was really, really tight in my lymph here, and my meridians here were actually really not happy. So I had to be really gentle. But as I got it moving, something I noticed is that I really wanted to do my sound this morning. So I was sitting here, that's probably why Astra didn't want to sit in my lap for a little while. I was really making some loud sounds. And that sound quality, also with getting the lymph moving, I was able to really open that manubrium and connect into that place of peace. And then I got distracted with other things. But this is my place of peace right here. And I can feel it when that joy comes in and I'm in that place. There's a sense of both calm, there's a sense of exactly the right time, there's a sense of clarity, of purpose, and there's no fear. There's no fear for me. I can see where people go there with fear, but for me, when I trigger that, there's a little bit of my 8 also, my grounding 8 that triggers in. I have noticed the last couple weeks I've put my grounding mat on my wooden chair. I haven't always needed it on my wood chair because my chair is wood and the whole frame is wood. So I found that the grounding mat's kind of not needed. and the couch is usually where I have it. But the last couple weeks I've had my grounding mat here, and Astra and I have been fighting for this chair space. But if I sit with the grounding mat or without the grounding mat and I engage that 8, that root, the bowl that holds all, my pelvic bowl that holds all of the rest of my core, and I also have that place of peace. It's usually a place of peace with 8 behind it. So I get the place of peace, I get that grounding energy. And then there's a sense sometimes that I pull in my 7 or my 5 where I have the perception of these potentialities and these connections and this creative force that I'm able to go, this is a possibility, and this could be a possibility, and also this is within the framework, and I can feel all the way around me. And this is often when I will feel the energy of the painting behind me. This is often about the time that Astra comes and joins me. And then occasionally I'll pull in that 9, that center of that back 9 chakra. But this morning I don't need it. This morning it's just all about this place of peace. And this is that medicine wheel. The journey through the medicine wheel with no fear. There's no disappointment. There's no shame or anxiety. This is all about connecting all of the pieces to say it's time to move forward. There's nothing that can happen around me. There's no chaos that doesn't have purpose, that doesn't have meaning, that doesn't have some kind of joy in it. Underneath so much sadness and chaos, there is so much joy. And we have a lot of things going in the world right now, and there's a lot of seeming helplessness and hopelessness. So there's a couple things I recommend. One, if you are anywhere in the world and you have access to the League of Women Voters, go connect with them. They are on Facebook, they are on the web. Find your local chapter, go to a meeting, and join. It's right now $50 for a year, which is pennies, which is real pennies. And if you are a woman, you need to be involved. This organization came out of the suffragette movement. This organization created and fomented the energy that created the Constitutional Congress of 1972 in Montana, that gave women rights to their bodies, that made women equal citizens. And this is important because right now there are places in the world where women are not equal in the United States. So be involved, especially if you're here in Montana. Make sure they don't change the Constitution and take away our rights, please. Women also need to be involved. This is an organization that's heavily involved in nonpartisan communication and getting people to vote and getting people educated on how to vote and how to vote where your vote counts and how to be involved in that. And not only nationally, not always the big things. Sometimes the big things are too big, okay? Sometimes it's more important to be on boards in your local community and boards in your county. And there's a lot of volunteer opportunities for women. And I know if you've got kids, you've got baseball games, you've got a lot of other things. You know, that's why if you have a partner, they need to be involved so that you can also contribute to your community. It also means that doing things for being involved in your community mean that your children have protections out in the future, especially if you have little girls. And teaching your boys that women can have power and step into their power and not be this big scary thing. The other thing, if you're interested there, and this is genderless, right? Like every man can also be involved in things. There's so many things to be involved in. You don't have to join the Masons. You don't have to be part of a man cave club. There are a lot of places that men can congregate and be heard as much as women can be heard. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Mexican, Latinx, transgender, be involved. There's a beautiful legend that I've read a couple times now about the Rainbow Warriors, and that means that everybody's involved. It's not, you know, diversity and equity and inclusion have become these hot topics, and I argue that diversity is not just about women and people who are of brown of color or different sex or gender. It's about everyone. Equity is not fair. It's equitable, and it's for everyone. And inclusion doesn't mean we're just including people of immigrants, or people who are Latinx, or people who are African descent or indigenous descent. Inclusion means everybody. And there's nothing to be afraid of in those words, because there's nothing radical in it. The people that are pushing back on that think it's already here, and they're afraid that something else is going to be given away. And that's not what this is about. This is about looking at what isn't actually here. It's not really here. It's not really diverse or equitable or inclusive. So there's my little pep talk. It all goes back to the wheel. Everything I talk about goes back to the wheel. Everything I talk about goes back to elements. Everything I go back to comes from Earth herself. And we as entities who live within her ecosystem and within her realm. Find your place of peace. Breathe into it. Be connected to the wheel. And understand that your emotions are real. They're felt in the body. You don't have to hold them in your body. Don't hold any more trauma there. You got enough. You got to let that go. And you don't have to do it alone. We're all here together. We are here together. And you and I are brothers and sisters, always. Doesn't matter where you are, time or space. Watch this 6 years from now. We are all brothers and sisters in this space. We all have purpose, we all have meaning, and we all matter. Have a beautiful day, my friends, and I will see you in prayer. Blessed be.